friend's plan in life. I filed my claim of damages. I'm gonna have to go with my attorneys. What I'm going to be doing, if they will deny it, is I'm going to be naming all about 1,600 neighborhood council board members, including their spouses and everything, because they have no standardization on a person to ask. There's none in the Brown Act. I'm entitled to it. It's my right. And their position is, oh, who gives a shit? It's up to the board. And I really would like to know how this member empowerment is responsible. They denied me several times. The city clerk is fed up with them. The Department of Disabilities had problems with them. Everything with that department is to hurt me. I've already had to pay for several agendas to be printed out in my pocket. So I will name everybody and also include your spouses. And I hope the city attorney decides if they're going to support your spouse or not. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Ari, come on down. Yeah, whatever.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ari Engelberg from Harvard Westlake School. I'm here to provide just sort of the monthly update on.
You're on the agenda. Well, I mean, Harvard Westlake's on the agenda.
That was part of the land use update. Sorry, you were agendized.
Raise your hand ability. Is it disabled?
Usually coming up forward.
Why don't you go ahead, Ari?
Okay. Thank you. Ari Engelberg from Harvard Westlake to provide the monthly update on construction of River Park. Over the last few weeks, shoring activities were completed for most of the main structures on the site that will require excavation. A vibration method of installing shoring beams was selected over the traditional pile driver method because it ultimately causes much less noise and disruption. It's actually quite an amazing thing to watch beams being vibrated down soil. Last week, grading and excavation activities commenced. Excavators are being used to load soil into haul trucks. Drivers of those trucks have been notified of proper haul routes and turning requirements, and mitigation is in place to remove dirt from trucks upon their departure. A street sweeper has been hired by the school and is used regularly to clean Witsit, Valley Heart, and Valley Spring of any residue from those trucks that's in the site. Flagmen are coordinating property. We understand that dust continues to be a challenge as we do work on the site. Our crews are watering regularly, both with watering trucks and sprinkler systems that are operating continuously, and we're working aggressively on additional solutions to address the dust. As a reminder, everything that we are doing on the site is fully recently, I wanted to address there's been some discussion via email and social media about the time when construction activities can start each morning. That time is 7 a.m. And I wanted to assure you that Harvard Westlake takes that time very seriously. While workers are allowed to arrive on site prior to 7 a.m., and many do, there is no noise generating activity taking place at the River Park before 7 a.m. Period. Makes sense. As always, we stand ready to address any questions or concerns from our neighbors whenever you have them. Call us at the River Park hotline, 818-487-6601, or River Park HW.
Are there any other, Barry?
And I'm sure school will hear if there's any sound before 7, because as I was telling many people in the last week, on my own block, and I don't even live here at the school, but in the last 20 years, there have been so many times when I've been woken up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning because of workers that are there before, getting ready to work, they always claim, but it's never a silent proposition. So
we have people there 24/7 because there's security around the clock, and then obviously workers during the day. We have numerous instances on video of noise generating activity taking place along the Ventura Boulevard corridor. Sometimes it's really 5:30. Trash trucks, loud lifting dumpsters, landscaping equipment, leaf blowers. That activity is not taking place at River Park, but we're certainly aware that it takes place in the neighborhood on the street just to the south of our property, and I can understand why you might need to stay
And trash is allowed at 6, unfortunately, but it shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Thank
do
you.
have a video from someone. who has-
Yeah, but yeah, this is supposed to be just public comment.
It's item 9 we're talking about now, so we should wait until.
Well, but that's why I wanted him to talk at that
It's
point.
public comment, there's no back and forth discussion.
Yeah.
I'm not giving a back and forth. I just want to counter what is. being
But that
said.
would be back and forth.
Robert's report.
I'll send it to you.
Are there any other public comments in the room?
Yes, I'm not seeing the raise hand option in the Zoom
Yeah, actually,
interface.
hold on a second. Scott, can you hold us a second? I'm
Sure.
gonna finish up the room. I do believe some people have the raised hand option on the bottom, but I'll get back to you. Let me?
No, you should go to the room first.
Okay, okay. I'm Adina Bleish, and I'm VP of Community Relations for Hackman Capital Partner and for Radford Studios, as well as our sister studio, Television City Studios. And I just wanted to thank you all for your service and to say I look forward to talking to you more in depth. I know you know Michael and Jeremy, but you will be seeing me from time to time.
What is your name again? I'm sorry.
Adina Bleish. I can give you a card.
That'd be great. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Anybody else in the room? Okay, going around the horn, I'm starting off with the phone number ending in 713 with the raised hand.
Hi, this is Ruth. I'm calling to introduce, if you haven't heard already, a motion for CIS in support of LA City Council File CF 24-0656. A motion in support of a CIS would be opposing the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. So again, to please put on the agenda a community impact statement to support a ceasefire in Gaza and oppose the genocide. CF 24-0656. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Raised hand also. Scott, are you able to get a raised hand up?
I'm not seeing any ability to raise my hand. But I'd like to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to talk about something on last month's agenda. It was a sustainability committee motion regarding artificial turf and a support of the Climate Reality Project's position paper on it. And when a board member had asked about the supporting of an outside group, he was met with what I thought was a rude comeback about, if you wanted to know, you should have attended the Sustainability Committee meeting. That agenda had a draft motion and nothing on the agenda mentioned the Climate Reality Project, which is the crux of the motion that the committee discussed in great detail, as we were told, that was brought to the board. I myself hold Charles Miller and his work in high regard, and I have come to see him speak at sustainability and at other events. And had I known his work was going to be discussed on a motion, I would have attended. And had the meeting been recorded, then I'm sure the board member who was wondering what I was wondering would have been able to hear the discussion, the in-depth discussion, as we were told, about the Climate Reality Project, instead of it just appearing on the board agenda a couple days before the meeting. So my suggestion is to have your agendas complete, especially if the motion is supporting a Climate Reality Project, which, by the way, was not even part of the council file. And if not, record it and post it on the SCNC YouTube page so the public and the board can reference it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other virtual public comment? Is there any other?
Was anybody here able to hear that, by the way? Yeah, I could barely,
You just,
FYI.
so that was your endorsement of buying remote speakers? Perfect. I heard that. We'll find a way to fix that. Okay, at this point, we're going to close public comment and we're going to announcement by government representatives. Denise, I think you may be 100% of the. Oh, I'm sorry, Sydney, didn't see you come in. wherever you need to. Hi, and thank you for joining us.
Council President Paul Cook's office, the deputy for Studio City. I only have a couple announcements. First thing related to South Weddington Park. We have installed the exercise equipment. There's 3 different sections in the park. I did drive by this week to see if the fence is up, if it's completely open and done and open to the public. They installed it last week. I saw the fencing and they were adjusting some things, but if it's not this week, it should be very soon. Part of that was funds from NBC Universal money from 10 years ago that we finally, this pot of money was for the island right there. And they all decided on putting the equipment in the park. Part of it too, we had to take down some dead trees and trees that were were diseased. And, but we will be planting, Breckenridge Parks will be planting, they say around 50 trees, more trees in that park. So that will be nice to provide more shade for that and the parking general. The other big thing going on in the district is NEHO Summer Nights. I don't know if any of you have been yet. It's at NEHO Park on Saturday nights. This week is the movie Grease, and next week will be the Elements Band, which is the sounds of the Mediterranean, and the week after that is the Barbie movie on August 10th, and then end with a Taylor Swift tribute artist on the 17th. And then National Night Out is August 6th at the Park City, and there's one also close by at Valley Village Park. And that's it, unless anybody has questions.
Thank you very much for talking with me this morning. We'll get back on Rio Vista.
Oh yeah, I called the park.
Yes.
And I haven't touched base with Deanna.
And
She's
we'll
fine.
drag Adele in on that too, now that she's back from vacation, and because that will probably roll through sustainability.
Okay, okay.
That'd be cool.
The person I talked to kind of was, oh, well, the school is for deals with it. And when I explained what the situation, when he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's long enough that they may actually have homesteaded it at this point. It may be part of LAUSD property. Maybe, we'll see. Good. Any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned National Night Out.
Yes.
You guys are supporting those events at Union Park as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, Big Theme is not in our district, so we've been really working with the ones in our district, but
Okay.
Anything else?
On board as well.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Hello, Sydney.
10 minutes? I cannot speak for 10 minutes.
Yes, you
Got
can.
a budget of 10.
Yeah,
You wanna give
sit
some
down 10 minutes.
Yeah, keep going.
10 minutes is hard. I don't have a lot of updates today, so I will definitely not go for 10 minutes. I did want to mention that we were very excited to be hosting our Wildfire Safety Fair. However, that has been postponed due to a venue issue. I am from Councilmember Rahman's office, to District 4. My name is Sidney Liss. I'm the field deputy for Studio City. So on that Wildfire Safety Fair, we don't have a new date for that yet, but you will all be invited once we do. We also just published some emergency safety tips on our social media, which I encourage anyone who's interested to check out. There's information about signing up for emergency alerts, breath clearance requirements and deadlines, monthly meetings on wildfire safety through MySafeLA, education through the Wildfire Resilience Alliance, and information on putting together a go bag to keep you prepared in case of an emergency. I don't have much in the way of other updates since council has been on recess for the past couple of weeks. Councilmember Rahman and policy staff have been using the time to meet with city departments and community partners to set goals for the next session around things like housing and tenants' rights, public safety, and wildfire prevention, as well as creating safer streets and other district priorities. I've been working with several groups of constituents in the city to address local concerns like vacant building issues and party houses, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Could you send me the emergency preparedness documents so we could put them on our public safety page?
Yep.
Thanks. Any comments, questions?
I had a question I should have asked you too. So I'm not gonna get this exactly right, but they're trying to change the rules on clearing out homeless encampments that came down from the governor. So how's that working out? How are you guys doing that? And
That came out today. We don't have a response to that yet. We are receiving a lot of constituent inquiries about that, hoping to get some feedback from constituents. So if you wanted to discuss that, we would like to hear what everyone wants that to look like. We're not sure exactly what's going to be decided is legal and what and how that'll get translated into policy. It's all stuff that we're figuring out right now.
Yes, it's very new. We don't. Policies. The city does have. The only thing I have heard that, but I think they want to use the way Caltrans does their cleanups as the example, but I'm not sure really what at all. I don't know how different it's going to be from what we're already doing. But we'll see.
So you're seeing this as taking a state template and forcing that to be the model for localities?
I think that what that Caltrans. I'm not a.
Okay.
But that's what we talked about in our meeting. We don't have really any.
Good, Barry.
The mayor said today from Paris that LA is not going to be following the governor's directives. Now, whether that thought trickles down to individual council offices remains to be seen, but in her mind, she's not following what the governor wants. That's what I heard.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to say, the way they're not going to do it, say they are going to do it, is they're just being funded. So there's never ran on. That's how it's going to work. You're going to get people saying, well, we're going to try it, but there's just no funding.
I'm going to go back to public comment on this. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is for Sydney. Sydney, I know you realize that 7 of the light poles along the river between Whitsett and Coldwater were broken off and taken away. 3 more were broken off. They were left there, and then a couple days later, they were hauled away. I'm not sure if they were hauled away by the city or by the vandals. So now there's 10 that are busted off. I think there's about 6 left. So those should be gone probably within the next few days. Thank you.
Yeah, we're aware that's Rec and Parks property. They are aware that they have to identify some funding to replace those. It's really a shame. It's pretty shocking.
I have a question too, if I may.
Go ahead.
So each of you really, I've just seen a lot of graffiti around, and I know you can call it in, except I'm seeing widespread. And especially, I noticed, I got on the freeway right at Ventura and Campo de Cahuenga there, the Ventura going up to, out to Woodland Hills, that direction. As soon as I got on the freeway, you looked out, there's an apartment building there, and the whole bottom of it is just covered in graffiti. I mean, it's disgraceful. And so is the other side of the freeway. So this is over tourists coming to Universal are seeing this. I'm not even sure I mentioned this to Barry. I don't know if you've done anything, but it's just egregious how it is so bad there. And I drove up through, other areas. I was heading out to the valley somewhere. I didn't see anything else like it along the way. I mean, I just was stunned because I don't get on the freeway that much. I take the hills over to the other side. So anyways, I'm not sure if whose property that is. I don't know what's being done to abate some of the graffiti around. So I'm kind of asking both of you a general question of that. And I don't know if you know specifically whose area that is, right? Along the freeway.
So we have to figure out exactly what we're talking about.
Bad on
Both
I think
sides.
it's- I know what you're talking about, it's bad. It's bad all along the. When they can find those big walls, they just. So Caltrans is responsible for. On cities. And city areas, streets and that's that is freeway. 311. Anything under on a first street. And that opposite. If they have access to it, they will clean it. Anything on a second story would be a building. Request.
Do we have to call Caltrans or are they, I mean, it's, yes, we have to call them.
No, well,
Well, you can do
online,
that
it's fine.
online. Yeah, that area, I'm sure that's been reported. They don't do. As the city does. I mean, there's times I've put it in. And 3 hours later, they're out there. And I don't think it's because I'm. They're just on top of it. In our area. Say my part where I live, they're not so on top of it. But with Caltrans, they don't do it as often. So, but
It's particularly
And that's-
offensive with, I mean, it's just so bad right
the
there.
wall next to South Wedding.
Excuse me, it's hard to hear you, Denise.
Oh, sorry, there's an access area on the Caltrans wall at South Wedding Park. We keep fixing it and fixing it. I think that's how they're getting access right there. It's pretty bad there. I'm not sure what happens with the properties, Sydney, maybe you know, that are like an apartment building that are along the freeway.
I think it's a freeway wall. It's just, there happens to be at the bottom of, there's an apartment building there and it's kind of a wall between the building and the freeway. It's a freeway wall. though.
Sounds like Caltrans.
Yeah, then that's Caltrans. It's when it's on private property, it's a little.
Yeah, right.
Okay, there's one last
Thank you.
public comment calling Ruth, go ahead.
Hi, I don't know if anyone else is having bad audio. I can hear like some people, but not others. Yeah, I remember the day the lights went out in 2019, like mid-November. I guess that the poles, I don't know if the poles coming down is like more what the city was gonna end up, or were they gonna take them down or replace them? I don't know. I've been asking for them since I did a 311 request back in 2019. So there's a vacant hotel, the Sportsman's Lodge, and another vacant hotel, the Park Motel. The city got $3 million to house unhoused people in the river corridor in Council District 4, plus Inside Safe is operating, and they have a contract for Park Motel, but they're both vacant inexplicably.
Thank you so much.
It would be really cool.
We got to stay. Thank
The
you.
Highland Gardens has a full wait list, so
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, go back to board comment.
So Sydney, the crosswalk that we discussed in the field, what's the status of that?
So DOT says that they will not put a crosswalk there because the curb cuts are set back from the intersection and they say it's a visibility issue. So they say that encouraging pedestrians to cross there would be unsafe, so they won't paint it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yet there's a bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. I think, Jeff, go ahead.
I'll piggyback on the graffiti thing. So I was at the bank at Citibank right there on Riverside in Laurel Canyon. There's like a vacant laundromat there. And I parked in that area and I saw the poor guy, he was scraping off graffiti. They just graffitied the whole window and wall there. And plus someone dumped probably about 20 boxes of expired COVID tests on the property. So he was complaining about that, but he told me that this graffiti is getting out of hand. He deals with a lot of properties in the area. This is of course Valley Village, which I believe is under Council President Gregorian's jurisdiction. So I've seen more of this, not only on public property, but on private property.
Yes.
So I think something needs to be addressed to deal with this virus of graffiti that is cropping up everywhere. So I just wanted to point this out to you at that particular location. There's a problem. You know where the Jack in the Box is on Laurel Canyon? It's like across the street on the other side.
Yeah,
It's a defunct laundromat. It's a vacant building, but they keep attacking that building and they're dumping stuff there all the time. So I'm just,
Who was cleaning it? Was it?
I don't, no. It was a private property owner, but he's been there multiple times. People are attacking the property. So I just want to make you aware of the situation and to see if anything can be done
Yeah. So
to alleviate this.
I have seen enough too. As well. And it goes in cycles too. A lot of times, when kids are out of school, review gets worse. So the best way to deal with graffiti is taking it off. I don't know if there's anything more on a bigger picture. There's, you know, LED, that, but I can ask.
All right, thank you for your time over as well.
Okey-doke. So I think we're done with the government reps. Okey-doke.
Actually, I'm here for Savannah. I'm Karen Dominguez. I'm with Supervisor Lindsay Horvath's office.
Thank you, Karen, for jumping in. I knew you were going to be here.
Do we want to do 2 more minutes then?
Karen actually is a government representative.
Okay.
So let's give her 3. Go
Okay.
for
Thank you. Once again, I'm filling in for Savannah. She had another meeting, but we definitely wanted to make sure that we were here for some updates. So at the July 9th Board of Supervisors meeting, Supervisor Horvath and Hahn introduced a comprehensive governance and ethics reform package for the Los Angeles County. This is something that is very historical, something that hasn't been proposed in the last century. This is a proposal to reform the Los Angeles County governance model so that it can become more effective and representative and accountable to our constituents in Los Angeles. The number, and basically, I'm sure a lot of you have heard, but what this is looking to do is it's looking to increase representation for the Board of Supervisors. We currently have 5 Board of Supervisors representing LA County. This would essentially cut each district by half and would provide us with 9 Board of Supervisors. Along with this initiative, we would also look to make certain departments and their procedures more transparent. For example, having a more transparent budget process where constituents are able to join and advocate on behalf of their community what those needs are. So that's just one example. In addition to that, I think I'm missing one more thing. Let me just quickly check my notes. In addition to that, and a very big change is this would also provide our community members with the opportunity to elect executive official. So a great example is when you compare the county to the city, the county actually has more community members it represents. And essentially what this would do is it would elect the mayor, our version of the mayor, so that mayor is no longer appointed as it currently is. And it would be elected by the constituents at large. So that's just, a very brief description of what that motion, what that package looks like. The motion passed at the July 9th board meeting and at its first reading this past and it had its first reading this past Tuesday, July 23rd. The second reading will be this Tuesday, July 30th, and that will be the last opportunity that the community has to engage directly with the Board of Supervisors. So our office is happy to provide you with information if you would like to advocate on behalf of your community. There is an opportunity for you to be able to provide a public comment in person, as well as being able to call in. And yes, and once again, I'm just filling in today. So if you have any more comprehensive questions or anything that any updates that you were expecting from Savannah today that I didn't have, I'm happy to follow up with her and let her know, and she will definitely circle back and provide you with that information.
Barry?
Studio City's other supervisor, Catherine Barger, has come out against the elected executive. And I know others are questioning whether the totality of a budget for 5 can be done with 9, or are we talking about a much increased budget for 9 versus 5? And I'd say if we can do 9 with the budget of 5, fine. But if we're going to double our budget, forget it.
Okay. Patty?
Hi, I just wanted to check if you have an update on fines to Harvard Westlake for cutting down 8 trees on the county property that is not their property.
Okay,
Patty, that doesn't really belong in public comment. Go ahead.
okay. Sorry, I haven't covered, so I don't know what the procedure is. Am I allowed now to answer those questions?
Since I've opened it up to question and answer, which I shouldn't have done and will not do again, you're free to do it this time. Go for it.
Okay, so just for the first question, yes, that is something that is being explored. So currently what's been proposed is there wouldn't be a budget impact, but yes, some supervisors have expressed some concern and are asking more questions, and those questions are extremely valid. And the supervisor is more than happy to take the request for reports and explore what those questions are even further. This is exactly like nothing is cemented. This is just an opportunity to start exploring and having these conversations. And with this package, what it's being proposed, there's also an opportunity for us to continue basically reimagining what representation looks like in LA County. So in 10 years, we would come together again and say, did this budget work out with 9 representatives, or do we need to shift things? And then we can even explore it further down. But that's not to say that it isn't currently also being explored, right? And then I don't have any specific answers to that. As I communicated earlier, I'm filling in for Savannah, and I know that she works very closely with our representatives at Public Works and with the representatives at Harvard Westlake, but I didn't get any of those updates. I'm happy to note that for tonight and have her follow up and provide you with that answer.
Thanks so much. I think that ends it officially, unless there's yet another government representative lurking behind a tile on my screen. I don't believe so. So I think we are done with government representatives. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
We have a committee response to the government representatives.
Do you still want to?
I don't want to respond. Related to the homelessness thing for the state, I want to position it such that CD4 and CD2, if you can hold off on finalizing a decision on how you're going to implement it, since you just heard about it, you wait to get feedback from the city neighborhood council as to how we think that should be implemented in Studio City, and get our ideas on it before you finalize anything. Since you've just started looking at it.
Yeah, I would imagine they'll be movement.
Okay. Okay.
Ron, yes, I was told that we want feedback.
So
Cool. Okay. We are now going to change things about, you want to go for the election first and then the consent calendar, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. On the agenda currently, chronologically, is the consent calendar, but since we're not really here officially, since this is the first meeting of the new year, it's important that we first bring a new executive committee in. So all of the new officers need to be voted upon. The 5 of us moving forward are only doing this as caregivers, carekeepers until this moment. So we are going to have nomination and voting for president, vice president, corresponding secretary, and treasurer. So I guess we'll start with the president. Are there any nominees or for president? Richard.
With the main nomination for Chip Mahan, President 24-25.
second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any other nominees? This is a time for presidents to move on. I mean, it's all happening, all your friends are doing it. I mean, would anyone else like to do this?
Trying to pass the torch?
No, passing the torch. Yes, there you go. I'm working on that. That's the election committee. I've already talked to Brandon. Are there any other nominees? Seriously, no one wants to take a shot at that?
No palace coup.
No.
People on Zoom can vote.
Yes, Jen, are you nominating yourself? Is that why you're nodding your head? No, it's not. Lori, you guys are both muted.
No, I am not nominating myself or anyone else.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and take the vote, I would think.
Want to leave the room?
And watch the recording later on YouTube?
Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Kim Clements.
Yes.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Dimitri Gutsonis.
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick,
Yes.
Charlotte Larson.
Yes.
Heather Lee,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis.
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
Del Slaughter, yes, it's unanimous.
Convicted for another 12 months. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Moving to vice president. I will nominate Lori Rittenberg.
Second.
I will nominate Jerry Lewis.
You need a second for Jen? Second from Jen Bladen. Do we have statements from how do we do this next?
Well,
I haven't seen a competitive seat since
Just when people vote,
2019.
They say who they're voting for.
but do you want to hear from each person? No?
Not if we're not gonna be here till midnight.
Laura, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I do actually. Some of the people who were on this board, actually all of the people who are on this board originally for this term might remember that most of us actually resigned for a good reason. And I was very instrumental and quite assertive in our meetings with both Council President Krikorian and Council Member Rahman's office about getting us reinstated. I actually gave the legal tools to Council President Krikorian to get us reinstated pretty quickly. In addition to that, I've been trying very hard, not always successful, in trying to get a lot of environmental initiatives through, including doing research with the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And what I learned was that, as I've mentioned before, that that district actually gives, according to their website, they give vouchers to municipalities, substantial vouchers, 80%, as a matter of fact, for electric yard equipment. And so I've been working with CD2, Denise Shaw, and thanks to her, she has put me in touch with the new sustainability officer at Rec and Parks. And what I'm trying to do is get Rec and Parks to take advantage of that program. I did learn through a CPRA request, a public records request, that Rec and Parks does use electric blowers at the 3 parks in Studio City. And I'm hoping that they will take advantage of the South Coast Air Quality Management District program for vouchers to use electric equipment, electric hedgers, lawnmowers, and trimmers at those parks. I'm also very anxious to push through environmental messages through eBlast to our 1,900 or so subscribers as part of my new membership on the outreach committee. And is that too much? That's too much. Okay, anyway, I'm an environmentalist. That's why I'm on this board. I'm very much want to push back on overdevelopment as much as possible. I've been trying very hard to push these environmental messages, and I am hell-bent on getting it done in this next term. Thanks.
Thanks. Jerry, you're up, sir.
How much time do I have?
2 minutes.
That's all? I'm passing something out to the board. Pass it out. This is, credentials around leadership. And I'm talking about leadership and servanthood, right? From a leadership standpoint, first and born and raised in New York, been in Studio City for 5 years. From a leadership standpoint, I held like multiple director positions with AT&T, managing teams of 300 or more people for 20 years across the country. In Atlanta, New York, worked with the NYPD IT commissioner, worked with CIOs with Home Depot, Lowe's, a bunch of other large companies in terms of working with the network. So a lot of experience with large teams, with middle management, managing supervisors, technicians, union employees, dealing with the National Labor Relations Board with issues that run into. So strong in that area, and that shows that part. From a servant standpoint, I used to be a director at our church. I was full-time representing the church children's ministry. I was the only unpaid staffer in the church, so I'm into serving. Since I moved to Studio City, I ended up being a HOA president in the building I'm in after being in 2 years. And in the process of getting things done, like the markings, when the street pavement markings or tents and cold water, I was instrumental in getting that done. And then the street lights were out, so I got that done as well. Barry helped me with some of that, and through his help, I learned about Studio City Council. From that, I joined the Public Safety Committee under Scott Bell, and through that effort, ended up being on the board. And through that, I ended up helping with Patty to lead the National Families Department of Studio City. So we're getting Studio City ready for earthquakes and so forth, and also leading a CERT program in Studio City back. And now I'm working with the National Night Out program, trying to get that set up for the next couple of weeks. And through that, I learned about the power of the outreach team, the Jen Lady. So leveraging the fact that they can help us with outreach, being involved with, and so forth, to help anyone. Thank you.
The protocol says we just vote.
Well, shouldn't they leave the room?
Well, it's going to be public.
You have to
Okay.
vote. You can vote for ourselves.
Scott's hand is up. I don't know if that matters. I'm sure it matters to Scott.
There's
Public
public
comment.
comment on these, so don't forget to go to public comment.
Yes. Okay. Before we go to vote, now that we have the sum total of nominees, I thought I would go to public comment.
Okay, and I will set the timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. President. As some of you may already know, I served as vice president and president of the neighborhood council. And I can tell you that I would defer to the president. I don't want to put Chip on the spot, but I would defer to the president's recommendation. I had a vice president who did nothing but obstruct, interfere, and throw sand in the gears, and did everything he could to mess things up for the neighborhood council, to the point where, in an unprecedented move, I had him removed and Chip took his place. And on that day, I realized that it was such a load off of my shoulders, knowing that I could miss a meeting. I could give Chip responsibilities as the vice president. And now that he's president, I take credit for the fact that he's a good president. That's thanks to me. So I would defer to Chip, and I would recommend a vice president who will take the position of president after the next election and not interfere and assist. It's very important if the person's willing to take on the responsibilities. And I would defer, just like federally, what does the president say? Thank you.
Scott, thank you for being the wind under my wings. I really appreciate it.
Are there term limits?
There are not, I think actually there are term limits. I think it's 3 or 5 terms. So you could.
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
No.
Yeah.
But that's an important point because I really don't know. There is a number.
No, there are no term limits.
We can.
Regardless,
There were, and they took them out of the bylaws.
because I don't know if I would want to run for election again. This is an unbelievably thankless amount of time suck.
But
for
right
which,
now we're trying to vote on.
no, I understand, but to Scott's point about what's happening with legacy and succession, that is important. Any other public comment? Any board comment, question, observations?
Did you want to answer this question?
No. Call for a vote.
Call for a vote? Okay,
Well, I mean, I think everyone should vote their conscience. I mean, we have two different candidates.
I could have you vote first.
No.
Just teasing. Okay, Jen Bladen.
What am I saying a name?
You're saying, yeah, because I don't know how else to do it. You're voting for either Lori Rittenberg or Jerry Lewis.
I'll vote for Lori Rittenberg.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Lori Rittenberg.
Kim Clements,
Jerry Lewis.
Dean Cutler,
Lori Rittenberg.
Dimitri,
Lori Rittenberg.
Jeff Hardwick,
Jerry,
Charlotte Larson, Heather Lee,
Jerry.
Jerry Lewis,
Both myself.
yep,
Jerry.
Chip Meehan.
Um,
You want me to let you go last?
yeah,
Richard Niederberg, Lori Rittenberg,
Lori,
Adele Slaughter, Jerry Lewis, Chip Meehan.
It's ties. It's 6-6.
it does. Hmm. No, it's not really a flip and a quarter. It's really a question of, Scott's point about succession was important because I think mix it up. Let's go, Jerry. Apologies, Lori.
Okay. Jerry is our MVP.
wait a
Secretary.
second. Isn't it tied?
No, he broke the tie.
I broke the tie.
Okay, I missed one. Okay, well, congratulations, Jerry.
And this is just a titular function and a move towards futures. It doesn't change much of your role, Lori. And I would like to talk to you about expanding along the lines of what we've been talking about the last couple of days.
Right, okay.
Okay. After that comes Kim Clements for treasurer. Are there any nominees for treasurer?
I would like to nominate anybody but myself. Seriously, anybody, please. I've had enough.
Does anyone want to be treasurer?
I'd like them.
I appreciate the confidence, but
Is that a nomination? Yeah.
So Dimitri nominated and Richard seconded.
Brake lights on your car.
I'd start it remotely. No other nominees? Let's go to vote.
Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yeah.
that means yes.
Yes.
Kim Clements,
no. And I'm serious. Put me down as a no.
I did. Dean Cutler,
Kim.
Dimitri,
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick,
yes.
Charlotte Lawson,
Yes.
Heather Lee,
I abstained, she doesn't want to do it. I feel bad for her.
all right. Jerry Lewis,
Yes.
Chip Meehan.
Yep.
Richard Niederberg,
Yep.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter, yes.
Like Chip, I will find someone to replace me. Get out.
You should take.
Yeah, but you're closer than me, maybe.
It's a sentence, not a whole.
Okay, so Kim is the continuing treasurer, corresponding secretary. is currently Jeff Hartwick. I nominate Jeff Hartwick for another sentence.
Second.
Third.
We're all gluttons for punishment, apparently.
I did hear Jeff honestly say last month that it would be more work to train somebody else to do this job than to keep it himself. So with that, you know, that amazing endorsement and commitment to quality, I just thought it had to be Jeff again this time through. Would you accept the nomination, sir?
I will, but this is the last year. I've been doing it for 3 years,
Yeah.
so. We gotta shift to the new generation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good behavior.
Vote.
Find your replacement. Public comment.
Public comment. Barry.
So Jeff is truly our savior in getting out anything legislative that this neighborhood council passes. And it's, before he was doing it 3 years ago, it was very hit and miss, and now we miss nothing. He misses nothing and it all gets sent out. So we should all be very grateful.
Call for vote.
Sure.
Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Kim Clements,
Yes.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Dimitri Katsanis.
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick,
Begrudgingly, yes.
Charlotte Larson,
Yes.
Heather Lee,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis.
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Richard Dieterberg,
Yep.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
Del Slaughter, yes. It is unanimous.
Next, Chip. Last but not least is secretary, currently occupied by Adele Slaughter. Who in the past 9 months since he's been doing this has become a beautiful swan of a secretary and is actually doing this when we couldn't figure out what was down in October. So I nominate Adele as continuing.
Second.
Well, are there any other candidates?
People can nominate themselves too. If they want to just.
Would you like to be secretary and treasurer?
You should do both.
I think, no, I think you're lovely, Adele. I'm just letting people know.
No, I
In
mean,
case
you
they
could.
didn't know that they could.
If
nominate
anyone wants to
themselves.
take it, please take it. It's pretty fabulous. That's.
Public comment?
What?
Public comment? Is there any public comment?
Scott's hand is up, but I don't know.
I thought that was Ethan Weaver. Scott, is your hand up from a previous?
That's Ethan Weaver in the trash, sorry.
Yeah.
My question is Gomes doing the minutes for tonight, or is the secretary doing the minutes for tonight? And if so, I think it would be great if you guys were completely caught up on minutes, because it's, I mean, for me at least, it's important when you can't attend a meeting to see what happened, what actually happened versus the agenda. So I think that should be first and foremost for whoever becomes secretary. If you're not gonna hire Gomes or someone else to do the minutes and get them posted quickly. Thank you.
In Adele's defense, I lost notes from our June meeting, so that is not all on her. I was trying to help and I dropped the ball.
I have a recording, I believe, of the June meeting,
Oh, then we can send them to Terrence.
and I'll get that to him. He wasn't able to make tonight, Scott. The intent is to have the minutes with the agenda and any associated documents on the calendar entry for that meeting within 7 to 10 days after the meeting. We aspire. Okay, vote.
Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Kim Clements,
Yes.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Dimitri Katsanis.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardwick.
Yes.
Charlotte Larson.
Yes.
Heather Lee,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis.
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yeah.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
yeah. All right. Yes. Passes.
Okay, passes. All right, so are we to vote on the two the card holders?
No, well, we need to have a little discussion as to who, and then they will
Okay.
have those names to vote on at the time that we vote on the whole packet.
Got it. All right, so we are now moving to the consent calendar.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, we're gonna talk about card holders and signers now.
Well, actually, since it was on the consent calendar and you're going to pull them off, it goes to the end of the agenda.
It's not office. Okay, I guess we can do it then. I think so. Fine.
I mean, we can either vote for it now or we can wrap it in because then we're going to talk about the budget on, yeah.
But yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So we're done with the election portion. Yes, sir.
He's coming back to that.
Oh,
Yeah, we're going to come back to that. Because we're going to go, what we've done is we've gone from government representatives to the new, on top of the consent calendar, we moved the elections up. Because it would have been inappropriate to have a consent calendar without an executive committee. That was my error. So now we're going back to the consent calendar. And Kim had earlier asked to have 2B, 4A, and 4D removed from the consent calendar and brought to the end of the order.
2A, wait, 4B as well?
2B
No,
Yes, 2B.
2B.
or not to be, 4A
4A.
and 4D.
Okay, 2B.
Are there any other exceptions to the consent calendar from the board? That being so, can we have a vote for the remaining items on the consent calendar?
Yeah.
Starting with Jen Bladen.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Okay, Jen? Yes? Are you passing the consent calendar? Yes or no?
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Dean?
yes.
Dimitri?
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick?
Yes.
Charlotte Larson? Heather Lee? Jerry Lou?
Yes.
Chip
Yep.
Meehan? Richard Niederberg?
Yeah.
Lori Rittenberg?
Yes.
Del Slaughter? Yes. Passes.
Okay, I can get into the consent calendar. Okay, my report, now going to the president's report. We had 3 resignations on the board. And we need to replace those 3 people. We expected to lose Ainsley Gammon, who had been our youth member and is, we're proud of her for moving off to university far away. We need to replace the youth member, which is a 14 to 17-year-old stakeholder in the community. We have some candidates who have been working with us for the past year or so. I've put out in the e-blast that opening remains, and there are a couple other candidates coming forward. We need to build the youth corps much better than we did before. The work gets done in the committees. We have more work than we have helping hands, and there's nothing like getting some enthusiastic high school students who see this as an exciting opportunity, and it is, and they make the most of it, and they help us out quite a bit. And it also goes a long way to improving their quality as functioning citizens and their resume moving into school. So we should get as many of these kids out as possible. We've had 1 or 2 people come forward that were candidates who are interesting but young, and have never been exposed to this, based on some of the, just as a parent, watching some of the language that is brought in front of some of these meetings. I would wonder about having my 14 or 15-year-old daughter here, sitting here and doing this. So it might be easier to break some of these individuals in through committee work as opposed to sitting them here in the dais and having them be unresponsive to epithets. So we are working to get with the youth member, a youth committee behind. I would love to have a youth ambassador, whatever we're going to call it, whatever I have to call it, from each school. So there was someone from Oakwood, North Hollywood High School, Walter Reed. There was one student from each of those who would actually bring that school's calendar to us and our calendar to that, and we could start to get helpful hands. If they only did one project, it's a Saturday morning, we get back in our lives. And more importantly, it's something else we can do that we can't do right now with the restricted group. So we're really focused on the youth member. Any candidates you have, please bring them forward.
Please let me know, because I'm keeping a list.
Yes. Drew has left as a residential renter, and Jenny has left, unfortunately, as a business representative. Jenny will stay connected to us, but she's got some demands on her time that won't allow her to be with us for a while. So we have a business rep. We knew that Aaron Justice was second runner-up to Jenny. He has continued to participate. He reached out to Dell and me and said, is like within 90 minutes of the e-blast going out, that he was still interested. So he obviously would be a candidate, but we cannot have him as the only candidate. Other candidates are welcome. So we'll see how that goes.
And he would be business rep, right?
He would be business rep.
Can be the only candidate. It just has to be a certain time frame that.
Yeah,
that
we
it's been
can't shut it down.
announced.
Yes. And so what I'm hoping we can do is actually get these new board members in place in August.
How can we do that?
Right,
Need
we
more
would vote on
candidates.
them.
Oh.
To get the candidates in, the
Oh.
candidates would be in the agenda and we'd be able to vote.
Okay.
We just did that, the confirming the new officers, that was fun. Election committee, we need to have an election committee that is comprised of, that is run by a non-board member. I have spoken to one stakeholder who has extensive experience in the board and the issue, and that person and I will continue to have conversations. I mean, I think what we just went through a lot with the executive committee conversation is we're likely to have churn, right? This is exhausting, and it's particularly exhausting when we're short-staffed. We need to get as many more people in as possible. So we need to get a full slate of candidates and have a competitive election when it comes to this coming year. So that will be important to get that election committee up. That will be a focus. Homelessness committee. Jeff and I have talked about this. We've talked about it in his public safety committee. I've had a couple of folks in the community come forward that wanted to be, that offered to be considered for the homelessness chair. Based on the reality of where we sit with CD4 and CD2, you know, having different approaches to the homelessness situation, the gravity and the scale of it compared to what happened 10 years ago. We have two different approaches in town. We don't dispense services, and we spent 45 minutes talking to Luis Oliart, who used to run this, and I can't believe the amount of time he used to spend doing this. It was a full-time caseworker. He knows these people's families. I mean, that is just ridiculously redundant with what happens with existing bodies that are out there that actually dispense services. I think we're a distraction. I think we'd be better off collaborating with these other existing food banks and the other agencies that have a serious and continuous look at this. And it's not a volunteer coming in doing this until I have to get a Braille agenda out for somebody, and then I can't get back to the homeless problem, right? So I think dabbling is cruel. We can't dabble in this. And so for that reason, I think we right size what it is that we can do. And we move this as an informational entity to the Public Safety Committee and not go through the work of trying to staff up another homelessness committee when frankly, we've had difficulty getting board volunteers and stakeholder volunteers to sit there and put that together. Barry?
Many neighborhood councils have committees that are combinations of things. and their title is something slash something. Could we not, rather than a subcommittee, could we not rename this committee Public Safety slash Homelessness or Unhoused? And just to be done under the committee as a whole, I just see a subcommittee being another meeting that has to take place. We don't need more meetings.
Okay.
So I mean, just food for thought.
Yeah.
For Jeff, probably more than anyone else.
Okay.
As opposed to an ad hoc.
Brandon?
I think what there is, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will. A lot of neighborhood councils run two committees at the same meeting. Like said, there are some neighborhood councils will say public safety and homelessness committee. It's the same meeting, at the same time. They're running two committees at the same time, which is not illegal because a lot of neighborhood councils already do it.
Right.
So the precedent's already been set. So you can have public safety and homelessness on, the last Thursday of the month at 7 o'clock. And because a lot of neighborhood councils already do, you're not gonna get any blowback. It's already been set that way.
Okay.
I think you have to- yeah.
Scott, go ahead. Scott, is your,
There you are. Thank you. Actually, I had my hand up when you were talking about some of the consent calendar items. I wanted to talk about the government affairs, but you didn't go to public comment for that. I also wanted to talk about the election committee, but you passed that up. I would like to point out, as far as the election committee, to not do what happened in 2021, which is the last time we had an election committee, where we had people running for board seats, including a board member on the election committee, which was completely in violation of our operating procedures and common sense. And I would encourage you guys to have a look at the binder that's in the office for the 2021 election committee. And for obvious reasons, don't allow people who are running for a board seat or who are already on the board to be on the committee. Also, I think it would be a bad idea to have people who were removed from office as an officer, people who resigned in public under disgrace, and people who caused disturbances at neighborhood council meetings to allow them on the election committee. I think that would be a terrible idea. Thank you.
thank you. Patty Kirby? Patty? Patty?
Sorry. As Public Safety Committee, we have maybe 5 members, Jeff. I don't know how many, but adding public safety to homelessness, I don't know how the committee could handle that. So Jeff, what's your take on leading as the chairperson of this combined committee?
Right now, we would have to change our operating procedures because homelessness committee is a standing committee, which means it has to be staffed. So the first step we would have to change our operating procedures and bylaws to deal with that situation, to make it a subcommittee. So, I mean, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. We're going to have to get a lot of input from stakeholders and board members to figure this thing out. It could be a subcommittee. It could be folded into public safety, and then we reserve 15 minutes or so for homeless issues, which for the most part are public safety issues. So anyway, that's my take.
Well, let's finish up the public and I'll go to the board. I got one more. Ruth, go ahead.
I oppose the combination of the committees. I do a weekly displacement meeting every Sunday at 7 p.m. I don't know if you need help with having someone who actually knows all those things that you said very intimately, but I could probably offer some assistance. Yeah, I don't oppose changing the name to like homelessness and housing or whatever. Like that could be an interesting thing to do because I feel like that's more relevant than public safety. Like, I've been homeless here since 2017. So if anyone wants to come to my weekly displacement event, it's on Twitter at 7 p.m. on Sundays.
Would you shoot me the address for that?
Yeah, it's on my Twitter, which is Roof Lesser, ROOFLESSER. It's pinned to the top of my page.
Got it.
And it's on my link tree, which is in all the emails I sent, like Chip and stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
In-person comment, Richard.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, maybe a little.
Chip, I can't hear Richard. You're muted though.
Refer to Patty's comment, I think at the moment we're 7 on public safety, which is a good number for a public safety committee. We do talk about homelessness, especially when the officer, the SLO is in the meeting as well. That does come up quite often. And I think that if we were to become public safety / homelessness, that more members of the public, the stakeholders would probably be interested in joining that as well, so we could grow in numbers. So I think that's also a plus because more people get involved.
Sure. Jerry, no?
Oh.
Dean? Okay, we'll continue to discuss this internally and see what this would be. And again, as Jeff said, the bylaws have to be revised. I think that is the end of the president's report per the agenda. There may be some more things that come up as we run through the rest of the meeting based on the PowerPoint behind me. Vice President's report, Lori, do you have something? You're muted.
Yeah, I think I pretty much covered it. I hopefully will be speaking to the sustainability officer of Rec and Parks in connection with getting them to take advantage of the hopefully the rebates for the electric powered yard equipment in the Studio City parks. That is the latest. That's it.
Adele.
I just want to say that we didn't have parents for the last meeting, so if you can get me the.
I'll shoot it to you.
And we can we'll get it.
I'll shoot it to you and Jen, you guys can play with it.
Yeah, okay.
Jeff.
All the CISs and RFAs from last month have been distributed to city council and their staff and also uploaded to the council file. That's it.
Okay, Kim?
We're too new in this year to really have anything to say.
Got it. Kevin, technology update.
Sure. So we have successfully enabled a Studio City tablet device that we had this year. So it is set up. It's not set up as a personal device for any board member. It's set up to be used for the SCNC. So it's a generic account, has its own email. The intent is, as we get better at it, to be able to have it sort of drive some of the meeting technology things like the Zoom calls, and hopefully have some better audio experience that we have, and maybe tie it into us being able to do more recordings and be able to publish minutes quicker. So those are the objectives that we have for it. So we continue to do more around technology enablement each month. We're also learning we probably need a couple of peripherals for it. And so, there may be some requests coming through for minor things like an external camera and external microphone so that we have a better experience with it. So that's what we have so far.
The other thing that we have done, the account and the entity for the computer we call him Hal, actually is a Hal SCNC at neighborhoodcouncil.com. So what happens right now is when someone leaves, and we discovered this when the board resigned, the city went through and wiped out all of the files on the Google Drive for all of us that were here. So everything was lost. Jeff talks about being corresponding secretary for 3 years. His files prior to August never returned. So all of the work that was done, Scott had done exhaustive work with all of the land use issues, including the Harvard Westlake property that went back to the turn of the century when it was still Weddington. So all of the documentation, including newspaper clips, were all there. So it was a complete master class in everything that had happened with the changes of that property. All of that went away. So now with the HAL SCNC account, when someone leaves, it could be Fred, and all of Fred's files can be dumped into the Google Drive so they can be retrieved at some point. So there's a better way for us to keep some continuity. That being said, I think we're to,
Technology.
That was technology.
the other question. Yes.
Speaking of technology, it's 83 degrees in here, and I just went outside to the guards, and they're getting the AC lot person to come and fix it, because it's ridiculous that it's 83 degrees in here.
It hasn't changed. Can we
It hasn't
open
changed.
doors?
It's set at 70, but it's still 83, and it says cool on it.
Those are, they're on timers.
The timers are turned on.
How about here? This one doesn't appear turned. Over there. That one, that's operational.
Kevin, what do we have for the next slide?
Yeah, so no worries. Next.
Oh, I'm
slide
sorry.
up. Outreach committee.
Yeah, Jen, do you want me to read the slide for you since it's gonna be difficult for you to see it?
I have it pulled up here. My real question is, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I believe everyone can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So there are a couple things that came out of our outreach meeting yesterday. And this actually came up at the budget committee meeting, which is that instead of having each event propose handouts, gifts, promotional items, swag, premiums, that we're gonna decide on those as an outreach committee and make that purchase independent of whatever event is running. So if you have ideas for what you want us to design and purchase, feel free to reach out to anybody on the outreach committee. But we are not gonna, anytime they show up in independent proposals now, that'll be pushed aside when we decide on that. Is that, Kim, does that align with what you thought we were talking about?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, in fact, with when we get to the lecture series portion to take out.
Perfect.
The flag. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then the other request we have top down, the president is asking that every committee send a representative to outreach committee meetings because we are trying very hard to get the word out for you, but without somebody on your team talking to our team, that's very difficult to do. So if you could organize sending somebody to our meetings, we meet ideally the fourth Wednesday of each month. So we meet a week after the board meeting. And then we are desperate to get on the agenda or the, I guess, role of the farmers market every other Sunday. We've been trying, my committee members have been trying to get a hold of chamber and SCRA officials to get us an okay to show up. Our first is supposed to be August 4th. Nadia is a new committee member and she is working on that diligently. And then one thing that's not on that slide is that Jerry reached out to me for a standardized PowerPoint deck. So I have that for you. And now that we have board members in line, I will also send out an updated letterhead so that everybody has the same letterhead. And if you, this is just a personal plea, if you get something from me and it's not perfect, please do not hesitate to ask for changes. I am happy to update it. So, and as for everything, don't hesitate to bug me until you hear from me, because, you know, this is not, as just like all of you, this is not my only gig. Thank you.
Yes.
Question, outreach committee is actually on Zoom. It'd be a lot easier to get a lot of people together if it's virtual. Sorry, Barry.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, what Brandon is saying is Zoom would make it easier for people to participate. And
Different. One person from each committee, as she's suggesting, I don't see how that would be feasible in person. It could be, but it'd be easier to handle it virtually because of the structure.
I agree.
yeah, we get that. And also, if it's one of those things where someone could just walk up and download, this is what this particular committee is doing, this is what we need you guys to advance. Because the problem is, the alternative is having someone from outreach attend every committee, figure out what's going on, and then try to translate that back. So either it looks like you're trying to take over the committee or you're playing telephone. We just turned that one on and we think maybe that was what did it when we turned the power to it.
Oh. Up to you.
But that makes sense. Barry?
So I'm assuming the outreach chair is always gonna be a credit card holder, as is the case now.
That makes the most sense. We'll figure that out in the next 30 minutes.
And, you know, if you want to have a Zoom meeting, maybe once a quarter with all the chairs, but I'm not, as a chair of other committees, I'm not attending it.
Yeah, no, it's not that the chair of the other committees attends. It's like someone on your committee downloads the information to, yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yes. We needed a better communication plan. It should be the responsibility of the committees. Jeff, you're up. Did you see that I wrote those down?
Oh, okay.
I gave you 2 cues.
Oh, nice. Okay, the first cue, we have National Night Out, August 6th, Beaman Park, 5 to 7. We have the LA County Department of Public Health is going to be there, Boy Scouts, LAPD, LA Fire. Might be a couple more entities involved. But anyway, that's what we have so far. It's a time to think about public safety, discuss it, and it's a good time to talk to LAPD and our fire officials about what's going on in the community and to meet other people who are interested in public safety issues. Also, last week I attended the Footbridge Neighborhood Watch meeting, which is at the first, I think it was a Christian Science church, yeah. And it was a great meeting. They had about 60, 70 people there who are all interested in public safety. The senior lead officer was there. An officer from Post, which is a security guard company, was there to discuss what they do for the local community. And it was very useful. Sydney was there and talked about some public safety issues. So it was nice. It was nice to network and reach out to other members of the Studio City community. Jerry's trying to put together what's a neighbor leadership team, and we're trying to get people from different communities within Studio City to organize like block captains, neighbor watches, so we can all kind of work together and public safety issues. So she was very well organized. The head of the Footbridge Neighbor Watch. I mean, 500 houses are signed up for it. So we're gonna end up working with her in the future, hopefully, and it's all good. Gavin Newsom's order to remove encampments. That's an executive order, just came down the wire because of the Grants Pass Supreme Court ruling. which basically said that, to make vagrancy, a crime or, something under a local municipal ordinance, is no longer unconstitutional, considered cruel and unusual punishment. So I think that's what's spurring, our governor to do something regarding state properties. Also, maybe he wants to be vice president one day. But, I think that public safety is going to be addressing this issue because now it's going to give cities more flexibility to alter their ordinances to actually enforce vagrancy and the service resistant who continue to occupy pieces of our neighborhoods for many years. So public safety will look at this and get stakeholder and public input to deal with that. Thank you.
Public comment, Brandon, go ahead.
I see Troy Span at least once a week in the circle. He's the guy in charge of this area. Would you like him to maybe have somebody from Circle go to one of the public safety meetings?
Sure, that'd be
Talk
great.
about what
Yeah,
they're doing with the homeless?
sure.
Okay, cool.
Ruth, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, this meeting is really hard to follow and hear. But I do thank you for having it hybrid. I don't know who was just talking about homelessness encampments and service resistance and stuff like if that's gonna be in public safety committee and not homelessness committee, why can't it just be in both committees? There's a lot more to homelessness issues than just our interactions with the police and criminal justice system. You know, there's a lot of aspects that play out right here in Studio City, like the hundreds of hotel rooms that we've had vacant for years and the thousands of vacant rental units and the fact that none of them take vouchers. So yeah, again, I'd like to have this discussion. I'm here. I'm on Spaces every Sunday at 7. Thank you.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
Anything else? Okay, Jeff, thanks for that. It'll be interesting. What do we have after that, Kevin?
Land use committee.
Land use. All right, so this will be me for the time being. Dean and I are talking about what we might do down the road in terms of management of land use. You heard Ari about Harvard Westlake. They're continuing. The property is raised and they're doing some serious work. It's an amazing number of trucks. And even though everything is going according to plan, they're doing the best they can. They have guys working with shovels and brooms and they have street sweepers. What we had been concerned about with the scale of a project of this size is monumental. I mean, I drove around the site a couple times today and just, doing the loop, Whitsett, Ventura, Coldwater, Moore Park, doing that loop. There was not a time when there wasn't at least one double dump truck in each of those 4 quadrants. There's that much activity. And this isn't a big property. This is not the big project. So when we take a look at the aggregate effect of all of these projects and the fact that, like them or not, they seem to be doing the best they can to keep up with stuff and they're barely breaking. Ari told me this morning they're going to get a second street sweeper next week. So they thought a street sweeper was overkill when it was first brought in. Thing never stops moving and now they're going to get a second one. So when we see these bigger projects, it's going to be pretty interesting. So we're continuing to watch.
Just that I know for a fact in all the documentation, there is no haul route filed for this project yet. Okay, he said there was tonight, and there's nothing on file.
So what is it?
You have to file a truck haul route. Basically saying how much you're gonna take out, how many trucks, which street they take, and has not been filed.
The Radford expansion, we had another meeting. I believe it was last week. It could have been the week earlier. I believe it was the week earlier. I had a bunch of notes. The meeting was productive. There were some issues there. People were candid about what was going on. We had a list. I gave the list to Jeremy. He and I were going to discuss it and then distribute it. And then I got COVID and I lost a week. I have since then gotten information back this evening, which I have not reviewed, from Lisa Trifoletti. And I will send to the ad hoc committee all of that information so they can see it. I was severely chastised by Sharon last week for not having, or 2 weeks ago, for not having invited the land use committee to the Radford ad hoc meeting. That was an oversight on my part. My intent was to bring the land use experts into that meeting. Our next meeting will be on the 14th, which is the day that land use normally meets, of August. And I'm gonna try to see if we can pull a twofer and have land use and Radford, where we can review their response. They will come, the Radford people will, and actually give a response to the questions, including sight lines. What does it look like? I mean, I think it's going to be pretty fulsome, so we can take a look at that. The other thing that Dean and I have talked about is we need to have a in-depth analysis of the Southeast Valley Planning Commission plans for what they see as an alternative to this labyrinth of current regulation, like the Ventura Coenga specific plan. There are other people that think it will be an adjunct to that and yet another layer, but we need to take a look at it because they're talking 7 and 4-story buildings down the entire Ventura corridor. So we need to have the land use committee come to the board, and the board needs to get an answer back. And more importantly than our voice, I mean, you were shocked when you saw it. You hadn't seen it before. When we had the people from planning here, it's been around for a while. Adele and I saw that 2 years ago. So recently after COVID, it was weird being in her house looking at a Zoom. So it was a while ago. So this project has been out there and it's getting bigger and bigger over time. So it's not just what the board says, fueled by what the committees say, but we need to also get our stakeholders to take a look and read this document. Because if it was news to us, you know, they'd have no idea what's going on. And there's going to be a whole lot of how did this happen, meaning how did you let this happen? And it isn't just us, it's also them. They need to read it as well.
I just had a thought. Could we do some kind of a town hall?
Well, when we had them here, that should have been a town hall. So yeah, what we can do is
For the, oh, for the south, yeah.
I mean, that should have
But I
been,
mean, we have to do a town hall just to let people know.
I-
Maybe, but not here, maybe like at the library or something.
well, let's have the land use committee take a look at it. Let's have the board take a look at it. Let's have the board take a shit on what it looks like. And then we'll actually hand that out to the stakeholders and say, here's this issue. Either get on board, because it's going to change. And some people think it's a lovely burnished future that's going to be really cool, but it may not be what you think your neighborhood's going to look like. So we need to get the community involved. Brandon, you can go this time again.
You can delegate some of this authority to Jerry now, but
Yes.
vice presidents, under the bylaws and operating procedures, it's kind of maybe the shortest paragraph, all the executives. You're basically here at the pleasure of the president, in essence that. So if you could delegate some of this over to Jerry, I'm sure he'll be more than happy to take some of the load off your hands.
That's right, yeah. You got it. So those two things are coming. Brendan, Barry?
If we do a meeting like you're describing, I think we need to do it without the planning department. I think we need to be able to have our own frank discussion.
Yes, and then I think once we've had time to review it, then we can have them come back.
Or not even just submit what.
So
we
that
think.
could very well be. I just think that there's going to be a reason to have some representative from there to get some clarification on something, because we could go down a rabbit hole from misinterpreting something. But you're right, I hear you.
Heather one.
Heather.
Well, I just want to be really careful about getting a town hall where angry residents show up and, you know, voice their concerns, but don't have the understanding of what the law is. And I think that it would be
emotionally upsetting for a lot of people who show up, who don't know what the law is. And to think that they have some sort of control over certain things. There should be somebody who understands what the parameters of what's going on is and really use it as an opportunity to share information about what's going on and to point out where they may have some control and say, rather than saying, I can't have this and I won't have this. Because the state density bonus laws approved by the state of California have to be enacted by the city of Los Angeles.
Right, and that's-
be within state. So to make people think, well, now we're gonna have behemoth 7-story buildings, and if you don't wanna see it, come down here and complain, is not conducive to identifying the components of how they might be able to share in a creative way about what they do want to see. And I would want it to be to have more of a creative input into how things could be the way they want it to be, rather than pitchforks and lanterns against government. and
Torches was the
government
actual,
agencies.
the visual was torches and pitchforks, but I got it. No, you're right. But yes, but we'll do that. But we'll do that. We'll have that discussion on the 14th, and I know you've been doing a lot of work on that. Next. Yes.
Next up is gonna be sustainability. Sorry, can I take my comment?
Sure, I would love to be able to share information that, I would want to be calm about.
Yeah, but you have knowledge of the laws and an ability to communicate with others. I think. Really,
I would be more
very well
impressed.
suited. Yeah.
Adele, can you see the sustainability slide over Jeff's right shoulder?
No,
She's
but
also
I
got
have
it
it,
on too.
I have it right here.
What number is that on the agenda?
This actually is not. This is sort of a PowerPoint version to kind of run people through the agenda that didn't have a hard copy.
So there's a gas powered blower initiative that's Lori is leading, which she spoke about earlier, so I don't think I need to repeat that. There is artificial turf. I don't know what these two meetings are.
There are two, Susan
So-
Shelby sent this out. This is part of the Sustainability Alliance where Park and Rec is actually going into the community and asking for community feedback on artificial turf. It's gone from those of us that were anti-artificial turf were, crazy greenies in the corner. And the last time we turned around, when we had a sustainability meeting, the motion that was passed by the city council looked like something we had written 2 years ago in a fever dream and then threw away because it was too extreme. So the city has completely changed their point of view on it. And now is the time to really sit there and work with them. On the 5th, the 1st of,
I just want to add to that. Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of different meetings about the artificial turf and sustainability, but Parks and Rec. So I also go to CFAC meetings, and Parks and Rec. I don't know if anybody's read this. They came in with bulldozers and took down a park in a kid's park. They completely destroyed hundreds of trees with no, it's a big deal in the city. So we've got to watch out really for Parks and Rec. So if you can get more information on these meetings and have people show up to them, it would be really important.
we'll put it on the sustainability email and also we'll send it out, but it was on Susan
It's
has it.
on, the August one is on our calendar as well.
Okay, and that's the Balboa one? Okay.
Yeah.
And the second Saturday continues in a new format, which I guess, is Jen getting that out?
We have to figure the format out first.
Oh, because that was something Ainsley did, right?
Ainsley
Two
did,
different things.
they're two different things. So the sustainability Saturday was supposed to be the ongoing piece.
Right.
Ainsley did that twice, and then that program stopped. So we need to get that back up and running, and that will kind of flow back to what Lori's been working on, to have a constant stream of data that goes out to the consumers. And then second Saturday was what we have been doing with tree people at the ZEV. The ZEV is currently under construction. We can still work with the tree people there, but this kind of just the corners that we're doing, would like to do something substantial. So I'm exploring with tree people what other parts of the river we can go dig around. But this Rio Vista thing might be another. If there can be projects for volunteer engagement and we can kind of hopscotch around, it's green, but it may not be river green. But that will continue for the next year. Yeah, they have hours they have to give. Let's put them to work.
And the tree planting initiative with CD4 is what we're working on with Rio.
No, that's where Sydney was going to get us the tree maps. So we were going to find out, and he and I spoke about that this morning as well. He kind of lost track of that. He thought that was SCBA, but they're doing Ventura Boulevard with the Washington fan palms and the pistachios, which we don't want to participate in. So we're trying to find something out of the specific plans where we can put natives in. So it has doubled back and hooked me up with urban forestry, which is probably going to come back to you.
Yeah.
So you and I will connect on that as well.
That's it.
And I believe the air is on, it's 81 now. so.
Ruth, you have another, is your hand up from last time? Patty, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it must be. I can't see anything because I'm calling in, so sorry.
Okay, no problem. Patty, go ahead. Patty?
So sorry. I'm trying to figure out, you skipped over whether we're having another ad hoc committee or it's joined with the land use committee?
Yeah, the next meeting will be on the 14th. I'll get an email out to you tomorrow morning and with the other stuff from Lisa.
And yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep. You're up.
All right, Government Affairs Committee, motion A, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council opposes Council File 23-0172 to remove the time of ownership requirement the Planning Department is proposing in this council file, as well as opposes building any multifamily housing in single-family zone neighborhoods. Last year, Senate Bill 4 was passed in Sacramento, allowing faith-based organizations the right to develop 100% affordable housing on property they own or inherit, even if that property is located in single-family neighborhoods. The state law conditioned this with a time of ownership qualification for any land owned prior to January 1st, 2024. An intentional measure to prevent these organizations.
Take care.
An intentional measure to prevent these organizations from any land owned prior to January 1st, 2024. I'm sorry, I read that a second time. An intentional measure to prevent these organizations from becoming land speculators in the future with access to otherwise restricted areas. Now, the Los Angeles Planning Department is proposing removing the time of ownership qualification in order to make this law more permissive in Los Angeles. This makes faith-based organizations a class of developers that have a right to build in single-family neighborhoods on both land owned before January 1st, 2024, and newly purchased land, with rights and allowances other developers do not have. These organizations can partner with developers, allowing them to develop commercial and residential properties with special waivers not available to other developers and nonprofits. This motion is also to be submitted as a community impact statement to Council File 23-0172.
Before we go to public comment, which is where we'll start, the reason this was pulled from the consent calendar is we're still working with the rules of the consent calendar. Adele and I and the rest of the executive committee sat there and bounced around the idea that the consent calendar would be anything that is either housekeeping or if it's pro forma, something that is city jurisdiction, approving what the city's done, we don't need to discuss it unless someone actually has a problem with the issue. So those go on the agenda. If we object to something the city's doing, then that calls into question the opportunity for discussion, and that's why it wasn't included on the consent agenda.
Related to this, though, sorry.
Yeah, are there any public comments before we go? Go ahead.
How's it going? My name is Josh. Just want to let you guys, just come speak to you guys about this, today. That, board is a great bill who sponsored it in Sacramento. And the reason why we sponsored that is because it's 100% support. Those folks are going to be, if they were to choose to use that bill, it would be 100% affordable. Other developers, private developers, nonprofit, there is a bill for them to be able to build and have those same rights and same abilities to build as AB 2011, and they can have that same right as well. The reason why these bills are passed, if you look at a study that was done in Cal Berkeley in 2021, it's titled the burden on the taxpayer on residential construction. So if you break construction into two parts, you have commercial and residential. Resident or commercial, you got 95% of commercial projects is unionized and is paid on the labor standard wage or the area standard wage. In the residential, 95% of a residential, whether it's or mixed use projects or condos or apartments, 95% is non-union. Now, what we're finding in that study is that the taxpayer is paying for healthcare because folks that are working under the table with cash pay, possibly folks that are being undocumented and work under have a tax ID number and have them like that. And so they're able to go to the county hospital. They're able to apply for food stamps. They're able to apply for child health care and other services, etc. So it came out that those just in construction alone, the taxpayers paid for over $4 billion a year, and that was in 2021. And now it's been 2 or 3 years since then. I don't know if the numbers are accurate. Bills came out with a labor clause to it as well, that anybody, whether they're union or not, will get paid a prevailing wage. They provided health care, and so that's why these bills were sponsored by the carpenters. We're excited to build. We have programs like Career Connections in high schools surrounding areas in LAUSD and in city of Burbank and other schools and so on. And these Career Connections, where these high school kids are able to take construction classes, carpenter classes, they're able to transfer right over, and this will create the future workforce. They talk about there's a shortage in the workforce. No, there's a shortage in the workforce of workers that are allowing themselves to be cheated by wages. Since I'll close that, we have 5 seconds, but I thank you guys for your time. I thank you for the service that you guys do, and again, I'm gonna have to be closed.
Any more public comment? Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, and may it please the board. I appreciate the effort with the hybrid meeting. Those who are making public comment in person, we cannot hear you. If there is a way to get them to put their face in front of one of your microphones, that would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, A for effort on your first hybrid. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, for everyone's information, the reason the GAC came up with this motion is because, again, our planning department is going beyond what state law says they have to do. So we're just, pulling the brakes on that. And we're fine with what state law requires, but not going beyond it.
Okay, there's no reason to go ahead. Board comment?
Yeah. So first off, why was this going through government affairs? Because it's legislation. Okay. We don't do legislation, but this seems like a land use doesn't do legislation. It does cases. Okay. So this
way I'm understanding this, look, this to me sounds like NIMBY. We don't want this kind of housing in our neighborhood. No question, this kind of housing is gonna make a lot of homeowners nervous. But the reality is, we have a very serious homelessness problem. We have a very serious issue with affordability of housing. Right? I don't think we can afford in good conscience to knocking things down. This is very reasonable. I don't foresee religious institutions becoming, landowning cartels that are in cahoots with awful business. It's just not what I see. What I think is does allow for is it allows us to get the affordable housing into our community that we desperately need. So I would very much support this.
Okay, next, Charlotte.
Yeah, what I'm understanding what you're saying is that a religious organization can put a multi-family home in a single family residence. It's not saying you can't build any homes in a zone where it's designed to be multi-family or commercial, whatever, but putting a residential, multi-family or commercial property in a single family neighborhood is where we're drawing the line.
Jerry?
Yeah, kind of it looks like this will kind of bypass those different zones.
It's just, it would protect, having a 70-story.
Hold on a second. Yeah, let's not go back. Wait, guys, let's not go back.
It's not true and it's not your comment.
Yeah, let's not go back and forth.
No,
Adele?
but you guys can ask me questions.
I'm good.
Dean?
I think you said, or they read that if a religious organization, for instance, was given a residential home in some neighborhood, that would suddenly be under their ownership and that could transition. It was bequeathed to them and all. Is that
Well,
what
and
this-
it's two ways. If it happened before the law, January 1st of this year, that's one thing. But if it happened after, then they almost are, they know about the law and it's almost land speculation.
Richard, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it just seems to be hooked to or related to the one about having lack of parking due to putting ADUs on property. It sounds like this is tangentially related to that, because the church owns a huge parking area they don't use. They can develop it now, but hopefully bought it or had that before a particular date. January 1st. I feel like these two things seem to be hooked together theoretically.
Yeah, I'm good. Jeff?
Yeah, SB4 was a bad idea. I think our neighborhood council opposed it at the time. I think our state senator voted for it, crazily, but the stakeholders were definitely hostile to SB4. And this is in the same vein, so I support your motion. Thanks.
Kim?
No, I'm in support as well.
Okay,
Opposing.
No question. Heather? Comment, question? Okay, go for a vote.
So a vote yes is in support of opposing.
Yes.
Jen Layden,
No.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Kim Clements,
Yes.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Dimitri,
No.
Jeff Hardwick,
Yes.
Charlotte Larson,
Yes.
Heather Lee,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis,
Yes.
Chip Meehan.
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
Del Slaughter, yes. Motion carries.
Pam, you want to play?
Yeah.
Did you have anything for transportation or we're good?
We're good.
Okay, thanks, Barry.
Well, I will when we come back to the stuff that.
We've got stuff at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. You're up, Kim.
Okay, so Barry Weiss could not be here this evening. The following motions were discussed by the Budget Committee and still in lieu of finding a great way to actually say we oppose something, I'm bringing forward them all in a positive manner.
I'm sorry, wait. That's not what's next.
We're at Budget Committee, right?
Yes,
We're at we're at Budget Committee motion A.
right. I'm
Okay.
just explaining again, for those who don't know why the format is as it is. So, anyways, just to finish that up, so bringing everything forward in a positive manner, and the motion A, the Budget Committee does recommend supporting that as opposed to B and C. We underlined does not. We did not recommend supporting those. So I will read motion A. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves lecture series to take place October 24th through June 25, not to exceed the amount of $2,700 for 6 events. Should I open with some comments on it or public, I guess?
Let's go for public first.
I have heard there is some concern over one of the lecturers who's also a member of the Cultural Affairs Committee being paid, since we are paying each of these people that do it. My understanding is nobody has a conflict of interest unless they actually vote money. And as board members, you vote money. This person is not a board member. But Chip is finding out for sure if there is a problem. And I think you can pass this tonight because it says not to exceed 2,700. And if we find out that this person cannot be paid, we can take it from there and we won't exceed the 2,700. But I think the motion can still be voted on as is
And
tonight.
Mallory will need to reach out to the city attorney. So,
There's a whole thing too. That's why I said you want my comments. So
Oh, go ahead.
I can, yeah. There's a few things with this lecture series that we discussed. One, and Jen touched upon it. We'd like to take the giveaways, out of the hands of the committee and bring that to outreach because it's gotten to be too many different things, very small quantities. We want to order larger and more universal things. So I would like to suggest that we pull out the 500, I think it is. 500 is earmarked budgeted for what Abby calls swag. We also discussed about printing. I actually would just leave the printing material in this at 200 because then it's covered under a BAC. We do not have to have a second vote through outreach to do that. So I would leave that. The presenter's fee, it's the one I actually am the one who had a big problem with. It's not just one committee member, another presenter had been a committee member of Cultural Affairs. And
you know, something I think, do I have hands raised that I had missed for public comment on the last topic? Correct. So Goat Puppet, are you raising this for the last topic or the current one?
Told you to unmute it. Answer his goddamn question. I raised my hoof for the last item. That's better. Yes. So, do we talk about that item, criminal, or the one that you're currently on?
I think since I missed you for the last one, we need to hear you on SB4.
Yes, but you would have to reopen that item by a motion of the board to cure and correct the violation. Why are you telling him that? Well, because Chip's not one of the really bad ones. He's a medium bad one, but not really like Krikorian bad. Okay, so he has to reopen the item before he can speak on it. Yes, that's what he has to do. Otherwise, we'll just do what we usually do. We'll contact the city attorney and scream about it.
I do. May I have a
How
hand,
do you like my photo? Isn't that a nice? That's
you have a hand vote to reopen the issue for your comment.
Yes or no?
okay. All right. So the item is now open for public comment.
Raise
on
your
this.
hands if you want to open it. We already wanted to reopen it. Thank you. Go
Okay.
for it.
Yeah, so now the other members of the public will of course be able to speak now that you've reopened the item. Yes, and as you see, I put up a photo of the late Joe Biden. And before I begin, let me preface my remarks. May he rest in peace. Now getting back to SB 4 or whatever SB comes out of Sacramento, it's all dangerous. Everything the Democrats do is dangerous. Yes, and you know it, don't you? So if it says SB in front of it, and it says Democrat sponsor, the board must unanimously vote against it. Fight it with every ounce of your mental beings. Because Democrats are here to destroy your life. What about Donald Trump? Well, he's here actually to take over the dictatorship, but I'll get to that later if I have time. What about RFK Jr.? Oh, I'm going to vote for him. He's the only honest one. So as we say in the world, we say fuck SB4. Vote no on SB4 and anybody that supports it. It's bad because that's why your streets look like shit. That's why you don't have any street lights. That's why you guys get 4 more years of Nithya ramen noodle. That psychopath. And that's why, come in November, you're going to get Nazarian losing to another one of those socialists. So beware, people. Evil is lurking all over Studio City. And that's why I've taken, at great expense, out of my bunker high above the mountains to come down here today to warn you to save your community. And as far as Scott Mandel and that picture of that bike, you're not 25 years old anymore, Scott. Find another hobby. Biking is dangerous. Remember, Joe Biden fell off a bike. That's when he lost his mind.
Thank you, Speaker.
Well, thank you, Pup. No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ruth, you're up.
Thank you. Hey, yeah, this meeting's been super hard to follow, and hear. The council file on this item says it's in Council District 5, which I'm not sure is true, or like if it's in all council districts. It looks like it might be. It's a weird one. Like, it says that basically nonprofits will be able to develop any like areas that they own real estate in single family housing areas even. Already there's so many nonprofits that are making housing unaffordable. A lot of the people that live in the permanent supportive housing that was built by HHH, a lot of them are just people that needed a place to live for like $2 a day and don't need those wraparound services. But there's no place where they can afford to live for 30% of their $200 income. So I kind of feel like nonprofits are making housing unaffordable, and then to put affordable housing in their hands, like how affordable? Like, is it going to be affordable to the people that need PSH on 30% of a GR check? Probably not. I don't know. I might oppose it. Like, I'm not totally sure. But yeah, I would definitely challenge it and get clarity. Thank you.
I apologize for having missed those two before. So, to redo the vote on this before?
I suppose. Yeah, if we opened it again, is anyone gonna change their vote?
No.
Okay.
No?
Now,
Okay, I got
okay.
it.
Back to you. I'm sorry.
So I was in the middle of talking about trying to pare down the amount on here, to take out swag, I think printing material. the big thing.
So,
that they're-
can I just interrupt you for a second? I just, what?
I said she just was interrupted a lot.
Exactly in the same spot. Thank you, I know.
What, my point being, we're just voting, we don't need to know all the detail. Isn't that to be done in committee? And aren't
No.
we just voting on this amount for this?
Well,
event?
she's gonna say not 2,200 because the $500 in premiums doesn't need to be there.
We don't need
But
to be
it's-
holding it in this for the next year, because this is how long these events will be going on.
Or you
So
could say that 500 is placed
It's not,
with the approval of the outreach committee.
it's
But
just,
no, we
The
decided
spending of it is up.
to pull all that back to outreach. So that money dedicated to premiums goes through outreach and outreach allocates the
But you should
premiums.
Put that in the motion tonight, that 2,200 goes to this and 500 goes to outreach. Since you're
it would
dividing
have
it
to
out
be a
tonight.
separate.
That's a separate
it would be
motion.
A separate BAC, meaning separately voted on. I need a separate form filled out with that vote. So it cannot be commingled if it's without.
So you can put it on next month, the 500.
it also says up to.
We could, but this.
But
would
then
be
she's
holding
bagging the
20
money there, and that's what we don't want to do is bank the money against this, and then it looks like we're hiding the money from ourselves.
The most thing, if I could finish this, the most important thing, because I find this incredibly egregious, that the committee that brought this to us also has a couple of presenters that they want to pay to present. That's, they want to, these are committee members who are requesting a presenter's fee. So this committee found a way to pay their committee members. And I have heard the argument, well, it's what they normally get for such a great. Then I'm gonna find a way to pay Barry for all the great things he does outside of his committees for this council. It is to me just absolutely ridiculous that it's being asked. More importantly, I do think that I don't think it should be allowed. The funding rep didn't think so, our NEA didn't, and yet when I took it to the city attorney, or he did, Lorenzo did, their comeback was very confusing. So we are trying to figure it out.
So what we know, what's gonna happen now is Mary has to go to the city attorney, reveal what she does, and see if there is the appearance.
We don't have to well. You can
Well,
go ahead.
I mean, that's what she'll do. So basically, we can either table this,
As treasurer, I need to know if I can pay something or not. I mean, I guess then the city attorney would.
the city attorney is gonna get back, so that,
Not to exceed.
right. So two things can happen. If that person drops out of the committee, there's not a problem immediately. Or that person can stay in the committee per the attorney's guidance.
Well, we can all agree that there shouldn't be a presenter's fee, and we can take that out of this as well.
But then it would be difficult to get someone to do these for free is the issue.
Wasn't the library perhaps paying these people before? I think Mary Mallory has a following at the library. Wasn't the library paying, or why are we suddenly paying
Because
for these
we're
people?
doing the event. Under our wing.
Well, again, I mean, I think it's just in horrible taste at the very least that they're requesting.
The library does not pay her. Sometimes often we can get refreshments from the friends of the library, but that's not the library. What I'm saying is, as far as I can see, Mary is not getting any money from the library itself, or any of the other people that are presenting. Doing it for many.
So our option is either to move this forward and have the attorney give guidance on how the presenter gets paid, or we can table it again to next month. If we table it again to October, we're running up against Labor Day weekend, which means it's running tight to get something happening in October.
You mean August? We'll be able to August.
If we do it to August, it's August 21st, it's very close to Labor Day weekend. And then suddenly, if we're gonna get this
Takes
happening,
30 days to get these approved.
right, and this is supposed to be the
Yeah.
first Monday of October. So I think what we should do is move it ahead. And if the attorney says, wait a minute, you can't do that. So to your point about the 500, let's go, because this is where the swags thing got out of hand, right? So basically, take the 500 out, the $2,200 should cover the speaker fee and refreshments. And then if the attorney says you can't do it, either the speaker in question quits the committee and does it as someone being paid from the outside, or we don't do it. But if we wait another month, we're absolutely not gonna do this in October.
I actually would be a no though, because I absolutely object to the committee member, one of these committee members wanting to be paid. The other is Chief Joseph, who's been closely.
What if
with
they
us.
weren't committee members? Would you mind paying someone to come in that was a local historian?
Maybe not, but we have some people willing to speak for free. We have one on this, in the series, two in fact. So, I mean, it can be done, but I don't have, it's $200. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal, but I find it offensive that it is committee members and people closely involved with it.
May I propose a revised motion that would read as follows? The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves lecture series to take place October 24th to June 25th, not to exceed the amount of $2,200 for 6 events. Did I have a second on that?
Second.
Any public comment on that? Go public, go for it.
Yes. Yes, as you know. Are you gonna do this right? Yes, I'm trying, stupid. So, as we know, you and all of you keep fucking up all this stuff. Here, oh excuse me, my bandwidth here. I'm on my Obama phone. 1 second. There, that's a lot better. So now, you continue to fuck up, don't you? You had a month to prepare this. And look at the harm that you're causing your constituents tonight. Look at Scott Mandel throwing out his Earl Weaver hat and giving up on democracy, as you can see in the photo. Yes, you should have done this already. You called this a special meeting. There, Chip. Yes, so you had an extra week to prepare mentally for this meeting. But you didn't prepare, did you? No, you just put everything aside and said, I'm going to go down to Ventura Boulevard and see if I can hammer a few down and watch them baseball games. All that manly shit that people do when they pretend to try to be one of those cool guys. But you see, you have to do the hard work. That's what I do. I read the materials. Even people with visual impairments now are reading the materials. Did you ask anybody in the audience? No, because Chip wants to be his own dictator. And we know what happened the last time that somebody tried to become a dictator. Yeah, that January 6th shit, huh? 4 years later, we're dealing with the aftermath of dictatorships. So if your committee is fucking up, blame the people fucking up. Or you'll take responsibility for people fucking up. And you don't want to do that. Yes. And I see somebody sending, somebody's on their phone there. You need to pay attention to these meetings. Yes.
Yep.
Here, I'll smile for you. There, say cheese. Cheese.
Thank you, stakeholder.
You can't take a photo of me now, psych.
Ruth, go ahead. Ruth.
Hi. If you're having a hard time sending the budget down, I know of a outreach that's been working in Studio City and Sherman Oaks for years called the Valley of Change. I've referred them for neighborhood purpose grants a ton of times. For some reason, it never comes up. I think that they've submitted an application in the past and are just kind of, well, I don't want to speak for them, so I don't know what's going on. But basically, yeah, they're the ones who like went around in the hurricane telling people where there was a pop-up shelter because 211 was saying that there weren't any, and giving people rides there, and they've been bringing people water in this weather. So that could be a great use if you're trying to spend the budget down or something.
Thanks.
I see Sean Smith is on this list, but I don't think he's getting paid, so I guess that's not an issue.
Thank you. So that's the end of public comment. Barry?
I think Chip's alternative motion is great, and this board wanted to outreach to people of a different age range, perhaps. It's not gonna be families with 3-year-olds most likely, and I think this is a way to reach other people. I think we have some of the best, local lecturers we could get. And in the meantime, if there is a problem legally with the city attorney, they will let the person know, and we'll take it from there.
Yep.
Call for vote?
Yep.
Jen Bladen?
We're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the
Oh, we
amended,
gotta
which is,
vote on the amendment first, sorry.
yes, first you're voting on the amendment to $2,200.
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt?
Yes.
Kim Clements?
Yes.
Dean Cutler?
Yes.
Dimitri Gatsanis? Jeff Hardwick?
Yes.
Charlotte Lawson?
Yes.
Larson. Heather Lee? Jerry Lewis?
Yes.
Chip Meehan?
Yes.
Richard Niederberg?
Yeah.
Lori Rittenberg?
Yes.
Del Slaughter, yes. Now we vote on the motion. Jen Bladen?
Yes. Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt?
Yes.
Kim Clements?
Yes.
Dean Cutler?
Yes.
Dimitri Gatsanis?
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick?
Yes.
Charlotte Larson?
Yes.
Heather Lee?
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis?
Yes.
Chip Meehan?
Yes.
Richard Niederberg?
Yeah.
Lori Rittenberg?
Yes.
Del Slaughter, yes.
Back to you, Kim.
All right, so motion B, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the neighborhood purpose grant for Hermandad Mexicano Nacional, up to 5,000 for learning workshops and exhibitions of Mexican handcrafted art. Public comment?
Barry, go ahead.
I thought this was going to be not approved, this motion. I'm so perplexed as to why this is even here. It's not a local entity, and our money would not be spent locally on this. So, I thought the motion was gonna be does not approve.
Well, it's
That's the line above.
that's the line right above.
It does, you don't know, which is a little confusing.
It
Yeah.
is confusing.
It is confusing. I still haven't, I don't.
So anyway, so I recommend a vote of no on.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Scott, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with the Budget Committee and what Barry just said. I oppose this for a few reasons in no particular order. I'd like to see the money go to established Studio City entities or entities that will be established to serve Studio City or for a cause that is unique to Studio City or administered by Studio City locals. As far as funding for arts and crafts at the Rio Vista School, I'd like to remind you that voters already passed Proposition 28 2 years ago, which funds arts in public schools to the tune of $1 billion a year. And as recently reported by LAist and others, there's controversy as far as where these funds are going and how they are being used, along with allegations of misspending. So if this money is slated for anything that has to do with Rio Vista, I say big no, because they've already received tons of money for arts for LAUSD, and I think we should be.
Thank you, stakeholder.
Thank you.
Goat Puppet, you're up.
Yes, and so we'll tell the other radicals on the line, you probably don't even know how to raise your hand. You go down to reactions and click it, and then you'll see the hand button. Finally, Brandon will be able to speak. He's probably been searching for it all night. Thank you, Goat Puppet. Yes. So, you don't want to donate to a radical organization? A radical organization that feels that there's too many white people in this country? You don't want to support a radical organization that believes that Aslan, the land we're sitting on, was stolen from the Native Americans? You don't want to fund Army Dead Mexicana Nacional? What's wrong with you people? Have you lost your fucking minds? You're willing now, at this late stage, to try to protect your country from the upcoming ruin? I'm surprised, Skip. I'm surprised. $5,000 less for your own demise. $5,000 less.
Holder,
Support your enemies.
appreciate it.
Maybe there is hope for you people. Maybe.
Ruth, you're up.
You think so? They don't have a goddamn chance. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get the.
Hi. Yeah, I remember when you made an NPG to Hope of the Valley. I tried to tell everyone that, like, if you call 211 and you ask for a tiny house and you say you live like in Studio City, they tell you they can't help you because they don't actually serve our area. So yeah, it's interesting that I'm glad that you oppose something that doesn't enrich Studio City at all. But in the future, like Hope of the Valley, please don't make any NPGs to them because they get a ton of money from HHH and everything, and they don't need our NPGs. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Brandon, you're up.
Yeah, I was at I attended the Zoom meeting for the budget committee meeting, and both motion B and C, I'll speak to motion B, but it applies to C as well. Nowhere in the application does it say anything about specifically how it's going to apply to Studio City. I asked the chair, kick it back to these organizations and reapply, showing exactly how is that money going to be applied specifically to our neighborhood. But he said no, and they were thrown onto the agenda. But neither of these motions specify specifically where they're going to have it. They're very general as to where they might have it, but no specifics as to where the events are going to be and how it's going to be spent. So I can't imagine having a neighborhood purpose grant for an organization that's not even including our neighborhood. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next stakeholder. You ready to do a vote on B?
Yep. Jen Bladen. So the vote, if you disapprove of this.
Yeah,
it's
board
no.
comment on this at all?
I just want to comment actually that I spoke with, first of all, they did somewhere in here talk about the valley, by the way, some of our area, around our area. Anyways, we did not reach out to them because we figured it was not kind to, that was not really the issue. We knew they were just too large and not the kind of thing that we wanted to support, that we generally support. So why waste their time and say, hey, can you come back with all this info for us? So, and the next one, in fact, she did tell me how it would tie in Studio City. I can, when we get to the next one, I'll explain that. But yes, we did discuss these things, so. Call for a vote?
Call for a vote. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, I was at the budget committee meeting too. This is a North Hollywood organization, so I'm wondering why they don't ask the NoHo Neighborhood Council for a grant. There's no connection to Studio City. It's $5,000 for 10 workshops. The organization itself means, I think, National Mexican Brotherhood, and it's kind of an overtly political organization that does mostly immigration services. So I just don't think that we should spend our money towards an organization that really has a tenuous connection to Studio City. Thanks.
Call for a vote, or is there any other comments? Jen Bladen?
No.
Kevin Burkhardt?
No.
Kim Clements?
No.
Ian Cutler?
No.
Dimitri Dephonis?
No.
Jeff Hardwick?
No.
Charlotte Larson? No. Heather Lee? No. Jerry Lewis is no, he already told me. Chip Meehan?
No.
Richard Dienerberg?
No.
Lori Rittenberg?
No.
Bill Slaughter? No. Yeah, we didn't pass it.
Okay, and finally,
Mr. President, how much time do you want to add? Because we're way over our budget on this topic.
Yeah,
How much time do you
well,
want?
this is the last one, right?
I
So we can get
understand.
through this quickly. Could we add 3 minutes and do because this is the same issues as the last, correct?
so would
Yeah.
you? Motion C, the Board of Studio City Neighborhood, you know, I can push it till next time because we'll have public comment too. Want to push it to the next? No?
Just
Motion C, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the neighborhood purpose grant for She is Hope LA up to 5,000 for assistance to single mother families by way of education programs, clothing, shoes, housewares, food, and personal hygiene. Public comment?
Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I read through the documentation. I don't see the word Studio City mentioned. Did I miss something? Thank you.
Sharon, thank you, stakeholder. Sharon Brewer.
I just want to let you know that on the application, it goes and asks if they've applied to any other neighborhood council. This organization is going to basically a lot of neighborhood councils and going and not being specific on how specifically they're getting the mothers, the information and stuff like that. They did come to Reseda and I've seen them that they've gone to other ones. And I really think that on the application, the person needs to actually go and say they have gone to other neighborhood councils, just not saying it specifically for that neighborhood council's area. But I agree to not go and vote for it on there. Thank you.
Go ahead, Puppet.
So, an incomplete application, shame on Chip. Brandon never did that, did he? Not one goddamn time. That's right. And Scott never did it. Not one goddamn time. That's right. Shame on Chip. But what about these single mothers? Why are they single mothers? Didn't they want to have a baby alone? Kids don't need a father figure in their life, do they? No. How come I read all these statistics that a two-parent household, the child has a 77% chance of not completing a crime before the 21st birthday? So we salute all of you single mothers because at the roast for Tom Brady, if you watched it on Comedy Central, oh shit, yes, as one commentator said, the great Clippers basketball player, we thank all you single mothers for giving your daughters those daddy issues.
Thank you.
5 seconds left for this whole topic.
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Ruth, go ahead.
This is a really good cause. It says they're going to get $2.5 million this year, so I don't think they really care too much either way about our 5,000. But I think it should be considered that it's hard to actually, if you wanted to use NPGs to help single mothers, which is a really good thing to try to do, there would be problems you run into, you couldn't just pay somebody's rent or something. Like if a single mother was behind, she couldn't just come and apply for that, right? So we're kind of in a place where we need a nonprofit to do that. And then these nonprofits are really unaccountable. There was just $3 million granted to the river in Council District 4, and 90% of it went to nonprofits with nothing to show for it, and only 10% went to the shelter. So I would definitely want to see more accountability, like maybe a testimonial of a single mother they helped in Studio City. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board comment?
Just that her answer to, when I did ask her about how it affected Studio City, she said they do help single mothers in Studio City. That was the tie. So that was it.
Vote.
Jen Bladen,
No.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Nope.
Kim Clements,
No.
Dean Cutler,
No.
Dimitri Katsanis,
No.
Jeff Hardwick,
No.
Charlotte Larson,
No.
Heather Lee,
No.
Jerry Lewis,
No.
Chip Meehan,
Nope.
Richard Niederberg,
No.
Lori Rittenberg. Lori?
Oh, yeah, you have to unmute yourself, lady.
No, sorry about that.
Del Slaughter, no.
Apology accepted.
Okay, now we're going to 2B.
Oh, is that back to me?
Yep.
So we do need to discuss signers and card holders. Do we want to just leave it in place as is? I would suggest that we do that Jen is second signer and a card holder, and that you're a signer and card holder, Chip.
I don't see why we would change that. I think functionally that works.
So then this motion and what you're gonna be voting on is the budget, that again will change. It's just sketched out. We briefly discussed it in the budget committee, but we're going to be discussing it more. So this is just get it started, and you'll be, if you approve, also approve the card holders and signers that are in that administrative packet. So, oh, lost the motion.
Is there any board comment about 2B?
We should read it first.
Will you read it, Kim?
Yes. Motion B, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the budget for 24-25 fiscal year, including the signers and card holders named. I think I need a second. Second. Thank you. Any public comment?
Chip.
Chip,
Let
public
me
comment?
go back to the Zoom. Good puppet.
Yes, and the signer should be a responsible person. They should be a person incapable of theft and corruption. Somebody who's distinguished in the community. Because we've had NCs before where people get that little credit card in their hand and go, I would really like to go shopping at Nordstrom's for a nice new lamp for my office. That's what we discovered allegedly on one of the council members' account. And that person is now fired. So we want to be careful, people. You have to make up excuses. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I mean, make reasons for your expenditures being necessary for the board's function.
Thank you, stakeholder.
Like leasing a Bugatti, for example, could very well be such an expense.
Thanks, sir. Brendan?
Yeah, I just clicked on the link that's on the agenda and I'm looking at the PDF, and maybe I'm not looking in the right spot, but everywhere where it says signature of second sign, there's nothing. There's no names, no signatures.
That was the conversation.
Am I missing something?
No, that was the conversation before, that without having a board approval to carry Jen and me forward, there was no one there. So what she has to do is add those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think that's the end of public comment, board comment. Fire it off, Adele.
Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Kim Clements, yes. Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Demetra Katsanis.
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick,
Yes.
Charlotte Larson, Heather Lee.
Yeah.
Gary Lewis.
Yes.
Chip Meehan.
Yes.
Richard Niederberg.
Yes.
Lori Rittenberg.
Yes.
Del Sauter, yes. Motion carried. Transportation
Back to you, Barry.
motion. A.
Motion A, this motion is like 3 months old now. It is getting on the agenda the next 2 times. I'll read it. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests Councilmember Nithya Raman and the Los Angeles Department of Transportation to install a 3-way stop sign at Valley Spring Lane and Beaman Avenue, as well as install speed humps on Valley Spring Lane at appropriate intervals between Woodson Avenue and westerly to Valley Heart Drive. And this comes from neighbors living in that neighborhood. As of right now, Valley Spring Lane does have stop signs like at certain intervals, but it's really missing one at Beaman. It goes like every 2 streets. There's a stop sign, but it's missing at Beaman. So it actually goes 4 streets to Bel Air. But after that, it's by 2 streets. So this would make the stop sign issue consistent, and they're also asking for speed humps when they're in an area that's likely to be affected very soon, both with construction from Harvard Westlake and once the project is done. And this board did pass a similar motion for Woodbridge, paralleling the same area, at the last meeting.
Public comment. Goat puppet.
Yes, I hate speed bumps. No on those goddamn speed bumps. Except near things that matter to Goat Puppet. Yes, Nithya Ramen Noodle. Maybe you should put speed bumps over on Havenhurst Avenue. Wouldn't that be nice? Watching all those speeders with their modified mufflers flipping their cars over before that 101 underpass. And by the way, thank you to the CHP tonight. As Goat Puppet called a few license plates in and they pulled him right off the freeway and stopped him right there in Encino and wrote him a big fat ticket. And that's what I do, people. I'm here to improve your lives.
Thank you, speaker. Brandon, you're next.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Also, to Go Puppet, everyone drives a Lexus, so they wouldn't feel the speed bumps anyways. On this, I I heard you. The speed humps right next to a construction site, I don't even think they would put it there. I don't know how much heavy equipment will be using that Valley Spring Lane. I'm hoping none because it's such a small street, but I don't even know if they'll install the speed humps during the construction. They may have to wait till after construction. So I don't know how viable this motion would be anyways. I have nothing more to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Board comment? Fire it up.
Yeah, no, I asked to have this
Oh, of
poll
course you did.
because of speed humps. I don't have a problem with stop signs. People frankly don't stop at them anyways, but we can't have speed humps on every street throughout our neighborhoods. I travel over several of them daily, and I actually did some research so that I could try to hopefully better talk to you guys about speed humps and the difficulties with them. And there are things that I didn't know. There's a township, I found some great research, a township like ours that was looking at, should we put speed humps in on the street, that there's all this speeding and we don't have enough law enforcement. So a couple of things that I got to tell you about that we wouldn't necessarily think is it actually increases noise because of cars scraping and the rebbing between the humps, because people have to stop. You might hear brake noise and then they speed to the next hump and they got to slow again. So it actually creates more noise for a neighborhood, which isn't great. Very interestingly too, has a negative effect on the environment, increasing pollution as vehicles slow well below the speed limit and then accelerate away. They increase air pollution on roads. One study found carbon monoxide emissions increased by 82%, carbon dioxide emissions doubled, and nitrogen oxide increased by 37%. Now this was in 09. For complete transparency, I would say it was 09. Our cars are slightly better. We have electric now too. But even if those numbers were cut in half, that's kind of interesting that it isn't great for the environment. They are expensive. They are expensive to maintain. They're expensive to put in. We don't even have the money to fix our darn roads so that, we can be riding on relatively smooth streets, and we keep saying yes to these speed humps. I am totally against speed humps. I didn't even read you all that stuff, so I tried to keep it brief. Thank you.
Any other board comment? Go ahead, Adele.
Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Clements,
No.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Dimitri Gatsanis,
Yes.
Jeff Hardwick,
Yes.
Charlotte Larson.
Yes.
Heather Lee,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg.
Yeah.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter, yes. Motion passed.
And the other motion that was pulled from transportation was as a result of delivery drivers and valet parkers of all kinds, basically crossing willy-nilly everywhere. And some of them wear with, the bright yellow vests and some don't. And this is just a motion having a city ordinance saying that it's required, and maybe it might save some lives and make them easier to see both in the daytime and nighttime. And particularly considering that they park in the center left turn lane now all over the city to make deliveries. So that's where this comes from, and I'll read it. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests Council President Paul Kaporian and Council Member Nithya Rahman to make a motion to require all delivery drivers and all valet parkers to wear reflective safety vests 24/7 with a visible light on the vest that is turned on at sunset until sunrise.
Public comment, we'll start with Brandon Marino.
Thank you. I kind of had a hand in bringing this to the agenda. I live in an area where there's a lot of restaurants, and the genesis of this is basically all the Uber Eat drivers and DoorDash drivers. They quite literally, pardon the pun, dash across the street, sometimes in the dark, and you can't see them until it's unfortunately too late and you have to slam on your brakes. There's no place to park to pick up the food. So they park across the street and they run across the street, and there's no reflective material on them whatsoever. And I believe in preventive maintenance. I'd rather not see someone splattered across someone's windshield and have that be the reason for something like this coming across. I'd rather get to it right away. These reflective vests don't cost that much on Amazon. They can buy it dirt cheap, and it might save their life and might prevent a very traumatic event for a driver. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Who's going to enforce this? If a worker has a vest and the light is malfunctioning because of a battery or a bulb, do they go home? Can they continue without the fully functional vest? What would be the liability factor for workers who don't wear them or lose them or have broken vests? I understand that we want to see these people dashing across the street, but making this mandatory, I think, is going to create a lot more problems than it solves. And maybe suggesting people wear vests so they don't get hit by cars would be a better way to go than mandatory by force of law. Thank you.
Goat Puppet, you're next, sir.
Yes, a very nice idea. Yes, let's increase the cost to private industry without funding it. We call these unfunded mandates. And let's do something to hurt the small business person. Are they independent contractors? Or are they violating Cal OSHA's employees? Remember today, the California Supreme Court ruled that Prop 22 is constitutional. So now these former independent contractors are not considered employers. And anything that Nithya is for, you need to be against. She's the equivalent of Studio City's Antichrist. Sitting over there right now as we speak in her Silver Lake bunker, laughing at all of you that she'll be making $1 million plus in salary next year, getting paid to destroy your lives. All because you couldn't check the box for the openly gay former Republican.
Thank you, stakeholder. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
I'm keeping his hat, by the way.
Any?
And one other point of clarification, these vests I have seen at dollar stores for not $1, but under $5.
Yeah.
So they're not expensive.
Sharon?
I brought this up to the police years ago. Almost hit a couple of the valley drivers running across Ventura at 8, 9 o'clock at night. They're wearing all black. So I think this would be very good to have.
Thank you. Ruth, go ahead.
This is just a way to like say when somebody does get hurt and killed or something that it was their fault because they didn't wear the vest. Like that's not helpful at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Board comment, Richard?
Yeah, reflective PPEs are cheap and plentiful. No reason why we can't have something like this. Minor cost of doing this.
Anybody else?
All the guys who work along the road wear them for good reason. So
That's right.
it's not like a big
It's not very fashionable.
I think they look gorgeous.
Slave to fashion. It's good.
Even our shirt vests have the stripes.
That's a
Yeah.
good look.
It's a good
I would say. Jeff?
Yeah, this is not enforceable. Right now jaywalking has been decriminalized. So how are you gonna enforce people wearing vests, private companies? I think it's overbroad. Delivery drivers could mean practically anyone dropping off something at someone's front doorstep. I think this is a terrible government mandate on private businesses. I get if you're a construction company, I think most construction companies and people that deal with the roads, Caltrans, for which I work for, we all require vests and whatnot, but you know, we're constantly involved in these unsafe things, and the company itself should mandate it, the organization, but not for Uber drivers and whatnot. That's the Uber Eats drivers. That's a bridge too far. Thanks.
I just will second what Jeff said. It's the reason I asked to have a poll. He also was gonna have a poll. It's overly broad, it's not enforceable, every reason Jeff said, and Scott as well.
Call for a vote? Jen Bladen,
Yes.
Kevin Burkhardt,
Yes.
Kim Clements,
No.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Dimitri Getzonis,
No.
Jeff Hardwick,
No.
Charlotte Larson,
Yes.
Heather Lee,
Yes.
Jerry Lewis,
Yes.
Chip Meehan,
No, I've been swayed by the fascists.
Richard Niederberg,
Yes.
Lori Rittenberg,
Yes.
Dale Slaughter, yes. Motion carries.
I believe that is it.
I
Yep,
have good
that
to
is
the
it.
order.
Yeah, good to the order.
Yeah,
Any
also-
further comments from the
Yes.
board?
I have good to the order. To follow up on what we just heard that motion. It's unbelievable amount of disregard these Uber drivers have parking anywhere. We ought to be tripling the fines. There's not gonna be any enforcement, but we ought to be tripling the fines. So put their hazard lights on anywhere, get out of a car in any lane, the center lanes, like Brandon was talking about. It's unbelievable what they don't care. I'll only be a minute. It's just like all the burglaries. I can get in and out before the police can ever come and, you know, parking enforcement could start to get some of these people. Tripling the fines would be really, we'll probably never see it, but it's out of control.
Good, Papa, you just saying goodnight?
Well enough alone.
He's already asleep.
Okay, we're gonna end the meeting. Talk to you all shortly. Thank you for